Hello, hello. So, this lovely character here is Matt Walsh, and I prefer to call him by the loving name of Matilda or Maddie Walsh. You may you get the idea that I'm not exactly a fan of his. Now, what's funny is that about 5 hours before he made this video talk about the dark side to the video game industry, I had actually gone, I wonder if he's commented on the Gamergate 2.0 stuff with Sweet Baby Inc. and stuff. Guess what? At that point, he had, and I was like, okay, he's smartly staying out of it. Good for him. Because the man hates video games, so he shouldn't be talking about it anyway. Then the next day, I wake up and I see that the man decided to open his mouth on the subject. So here we are. I thought that first I would actually play through not just a 20-second clip of what he has to say, but I believe it's like about 2.5 minutes that he talks about it. And I'd show the context of what he actually said. I partially say that as because as there's a tweet that I'm going to show that talks about people not being able to get the context of a 20-second clip, and I'm all about context as king. So I'm going to get so I'm going to do this with context. I'm going to give him credit where credit is due because some of the things he says is on point, and he invalidates a whole bunch of it right at the end. So, yes, here we go.
By revenue, if you were born at any point prior to the 1990s, might be hard to believe.
Anytime prior to the 1990s. Guess what? I was born in 1979. So here we go.
By revenue, the gaming industry is bigger than both the movie industry and the music industry combined.
Gee, shocker. You mean that there's a lot of us who like playing video games and we can download it to our computer, and instead of just us watching a movie for the hour or two, we can actually get a lot of enjoyment out of it continuously, and we don't have to wait for Hollywood to give us their next steaming pile of shit. I mean, okay.
And for the past several years, it hasn't been especially close. The difference is consistently more than $100 billion per year.
Gee, I'm so shocked. Yeah, and in the last few years, there's been this thing where everyone was told to stay at home, and then after that stopped, people had gotten into had still gotten into the practice of staying at home. So one of the things that people do when they stay at home is they play video games. Ta-da!
So video games are a massive market, one that's mostly targeted at young people, of course.
At young people or older people too. I'm 40. There's a lot of gamers who started gaming when we were children, and we still game. And guess what? A lot of us are the ones that have the money to buy the games. Dipshit.
But despite those numbers, for the most part, the games industry has avoided mainstream scrutiny.
Avoid mainstream scrutiny. Yeah, Matt, avoided their scrutiny. What do you think that satanic panic was about? People like you who went off and panicked about every little thing. Every once in a while, we hear something, but we hear something from politicians about how games like Grand Theft Auto are causing people to go out and kill things. What do you mean that it's avoided mainstream scrutiny? You dumbass.
You'll see far more discussion about, say, Sydney Sweeney or Taylor Swift than you'll ever see about prominent video game voice actors and directors who pretty much no one knows anything about.
Well, the main reason why no one knows anything about that, as far as you're concerned, is because you hate video games, so you don't run in those circles, moron.
Everyone's heard of Lionsgate or Paramount, but almost no one's heard of studios like Don't Nod Entertainment, for example. And that's significant because these no-name studios are behind the single most coordinated effort to indoctrinate millions of children through entertainment that's ever occurred in this country.
That's ever occurred in this country. Yes, you are about to discuss the stuff like Sweet Baby Inc. and things like that. And you're saying this is the most coordinated effort? You moron. This is the same sort of stuff that goes on in Hollywood all the time that you actually are trying to make movies and stuff against. Which, by the way, I find funny because you always come off to be as being very anti-entertainment. So the idea that you're part of a company that's trying to take back the entertainment while saying entertainment is bad, I find that funny.
This effort is maybe more powerful than the teachers' unions, if only because these propagandists mostly work in secret. Even if you homeschool your children, they're not immune to it. You might.
The same stuff happens with movies and in Hollywood, dude. Give me a break.
You've heard of something about you might have heard something about one of the companies behind this indoctrination effort called Sweet Baby Inc. or SBI. And in a moment, I'll get into the details about what exactly that organization is doing and who's helping them do it. But first, I want to get the good news out of the way, which is that if there's any silver lining, it's that this effort to indoctrinate children is incredibly ham-fisted.
Not always. He's about to show one of the things that is particularly ham-fisted, but they're subtle. They can be subtle too. But he's not completely wrong. A lot of times it is ham-fisted.
Some of the dumbest people in the world are behind it.
Not all.
So take that studio I just mentioned, Don't Nod Entertainment. They're behind the very popular Life is Strange video game series, which has been played by tens of millions of people. Yeah. And to give you an idea of how overt the propaganda is in Life is Strange, here's just one mercifully short sequence involving, what else? A racist white guy. There's some backstory about how he kidnapped an innocent Hispanic kid or something. And then this, watch.
Gonna tell the police you kidnapped me. Nice try, but I know who you are and what you did in Seattle. I saw it in the paper. Maybe I should call ICE to make sure you're a citizen. You hillbilly, I'm American.
Maybe I should call ICE. Yeah.
Punk. Whatever. Going to jail for this. Pretty sure the local police will vouch for me over a thug like you.
Yeah, not exactly subtle.
Where's my brother? Which I knew. He took off. I'll find him. Don't worry. If you touch him, I got her, little boy. If you didn't have any second thoughts about leaving him out in the middle of nowhere, though. That's real safe for a little kid. If he's lucky.
Yeah.
He won't end up like his criminal big brother. Just let me go, please. You're the reason we need to build that wall. You hold tight.
Build that wall. Build that wall. Look, so here I agree with Matt Walsh. That part is not exactly that is not exactly subtle.
I guess I lied. I said that it was mercifully short, but that felt like 3 hours long. And I will say also that this is neither here nor there. Well, maybe it's not, but when I obviously I don't pay much attention to video games. When I started looking into
you don't pay much attention to video games. That is true. But for someone who doesn't pay much attention to video games, you certainly have a lot to say about them.
Story we're talking about now and watching some of these videos, I was like, I sort of expected the graphics and just the overall quality to be better now, and than it is, because really low quality all around. But
okay, not all around, but he does have a point that things haven't gotten better, gotten as much better as you might think. I would actually attribute that to laziness. It's on the programmer's part. Or deadlines that are given so they don't have the time to aim to and to do things right. I mean, that can be the case as well.
But he says we need to build a wall. That's according to the white racist kidnapping the innocent Hispanic boy. And this is a game that, if Wikipedia is to be believed, received generally positive reviews upon release. Critics praised the story.
Critics praise the story. Matilda, dear, sweetie, honey, critics, just like the critics for Hollywood movies, are not the people you want to listen to. Those critics you're talking about are the games journalists. Matilda. Sweet, sweet Matilda.
So we can conclude that the bar is incredibly low in this entire industry. All that developers have to do is beat their audience over the head with rote left-wing propaganda, and they're
this entire thing shows exactly why he is not somebody we should listen to. He's actually assuming that the games journalists are representative of the gamers. You stupid motherfucker.
Game will be well reviewed and well received.
Hey,
the more recent game, Suicide Squad, is another prominent example. They decided to write a story about Batman's toxic masculinity, which ended with a girl boss shooting Batman.
And here's the thing that actually belies his point. His point he just tried to make about how low the bar is. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, flopped, you moron. And in large part because of the stuff you're talking about here. So that low bar, guess what? It's not that easy.
Spoiler, apologize for that. Should have warned you. Anyway, here's part of that sequence.
You had a good run, Brucey. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, clean up.
Here's the thing, Evo. I consider him to be as bad as the game journalists. Just as bad. Just not in the same way.
The streets, causing long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew.
Oh, come on. What's going on? Okay, there we go.
It's our turn now.
Buffering.
After all we've been through. Oh. Bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end. Hobbits!
Uh-huh.
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost. But you always gotta end on your best joke.
I'd say that's giving him too much credit, but I don't really give journalists much credit either. So,
yeah, I can't watch any more of that. Okay. Well, you can imagine just how many purple-haired women must work at that studio. I mean, they probably provide the hair dye on tap in their company. Now, I didn't play that game, obviously. I haven't played any of these games. I'm not a video game fan or player, as most people I think know by now. But the point is that these clips were all over the internet because of how awful they are. They're just terrible in every way, even just from a quality perspective. Again,
I mean, this is the part where he's not wrong. They are awful, but consider the source.
They're bad, even if you happen to agree with their politics. But the fact remains that for children of a certain age, the propaganda doesn't need to be subtle. All they got to do is present it to children, and it can be effective. And that's why some anonymous people using the games platform Steam decided to figure out exactly who's putting this garbage in games and why. They found that the company I mentioned earlier, called Sweet Baby Inc. I have to say, no relation to the Sweet Baby Gang. I swear.
Okay, I do find this amusing that he's going Sweet Baby Inc. for Sweet Baby Gang. That is a little bit funny. I will grant him this.
Off any association, I would file a lawsuit for copyright infringement, if not for the fact that I don't have a copyright. And also, Sweet Baby Inc. existed first, technically, but never mind that.
Okay, and I feel the need to fact check him a little bit on this, even though he is just making a joke. The thing here is that it would actually be more of a trademark thing, and it wouldn't fly anyway because it's in different contexts. So the trademark would not be being infringed. At least that's my understanding.
Anyway, these people on Steam found that Sweet Baby Inc. has contracted with major publishers to push the principles of DEI in video games as aggressively as possible. Sweet Baby.
Now, does Matilda even understand why they would actually do such a thing? Probably not. But the esoterics of of ESG scores. Or yeah, the aspects of ESG scores for loans to get easy cash that has strings attached with things like hiring a company like Sweet Baby Inc. probably goes over his peanut-sized head.
Inc. or SBI worked with the developers of the game I just showed you, Suicide Squad, and they've also had a role in several other major releases recently. Yes, on their website, SBI boasts that...
And SBI, as well as multiple other consulting companies. Sweet Baby Inc. is just one example of many. Another one is obviously Anita Sarkeesian, who has been in contact with Neil Druckmann, and so affected Naughty Dog's release of The Last of Us Part 2.
They're committed to installing principles of diversity into games, and they do it forcibly. In fact, the founder and CEO of SBI, a woman named Kim Belair, recently spoke to game developers and instructed them to threaten their companies unless they comply with Sweet Baby's DEI mandates. Watch.
And this is true. And yes, he did drag out that joke. I did find it a little funny, but...
And if you're in development and you are part of like that dominant voice, you're like a cis hetero white dude or just adjacent to that, do not wait until the end to call your consultants. Bring them in at the beginning, and instead of asking them, hey, make
sure to bring them in at the beginning so that the rot can come in right at the start. Yes. That's when you can't get it out, when it's there to put from the beginning.
Is this very racist thing we did very racist, or is this deeply offensive thing we did deeply offensive? Are you hurt by it?
And I'm sorry if the person who is saying these things just talked about cis hetero and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm probably not going to pay much attention to you.
Ask them what they want to see. Like, ask them what would thrill them, what would bring them joy. And if you have a team lead, put that request to them very, very early. If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and...
Oh, no problem, Eagle Rider. I just decided that I had things to say about Matilda Walsh, so I decided to put up my stream on this before I start streaming start streaming some my Final Fantasy Rebirth stuff. And I hope your stream's going well.
Just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
Yeah, terrify them. Terrify them. Yep. Yeah, but this is more. But this is more of a focus thing that I'm doing. I've got the streamer thing going on right now, where I've got like 7 tabs open, so that I'm ready to present my stuff. This isn't so much of me wanting to just randomly rant. I want to have this out there.
So this is how DEI works in every industry, of course. The goal is not to improve the company's product in any way. It's to blackmail companies and threaten them into submission.
Yeah, he is correct here. He's not wrong here.
And in this case, they're just saying it out loud. Pay the DEI tax or we will destroy you. Only in the games industry, where everyone is dumber than they are in every other industry.
Yeah, again, why should we want to have Matilda Walsh here as an ally? You're over here talking about the gaming industry as having us being dumb. Yeah, this is really somebody we want on our side. There's a reason why I made the thumbnail that I did. You are a fucking scorpion. What do you mean by what? or say what to what he said. Yes, maybe in the writer's room, but you'll find out from some stuff that I'm going to be sharing after this that he and his team at Daily Wire consider gamers to be dumb. Not just the writers, but the gamers.
Do they just come right out and say it as directly as that? Along these lines, as you might have guessed, so-called games journalists are somehow even dumber than journalists in other industries, too.
And this is part of why I made a point of saying that I consider him as bad as a games journalist, because he's about to shit on games journalists. And, well, yes, I shit on them, too. I also shit on you.
Which, I mean, is really, really saying something. They're just completely unable to hide their real goals or display any hint of subtlety whatsoever. For example, in response to clips like this surfacing, games writers have produced several articles portraying SBI as the victim of a harassment campaign.
Oh, yeah. That's the interesting thing about this video. He says a lot of things that are accurate. And instead of me just saying Matt's a big dumb meanie face, yeah, and I know not even other journalists respect them. But so instead of me saying Matt's just a big dumb meanie face, I wanted to actually go through this and give context to what I thought he got right and what I thought he got wrong. And the reason why, even though he gets things right in here, I do not think that we should consider him any sort of a friend. And I'm offended by anyone who says that since he's against people like SBI, that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, the enemy of my enemy is my enemy's enemy. Nothing more, nothing less. And that is all that Matt Walsh is. He wants gaming to go away. He does not want to help save gaming. He just wants gaming to stop. Do I have some vitriol? Yes, I do. I've also read the article live on stream. I think you were there for Evo. Oh no, where I read about how even an hour's worth of gaming, if I remember correctly, during a day is too much. By
which they mean people are noticing what SBI is doing, and we know that on the left, the worst thing you can ever do is just notice. Noticing is the greatest crime of all. I'm here today because my mother chose life, and you're here today because your mother chose life too. The Mayor Warren's net round after True Love Free Day. It's $28 with pound to /PCU others. Whether your campus, academic field, your private people are writer for the website Poly. He says, quote, in a just world, responded to people who are concerned about SBI, quote, he says, quote, in a just world, these clowns would have their Steam accounts turned off, their PlayStations bricked, and get booted from any respectable social platform. So in the games industry, the journalists just come right out and demand that you're deleted from the internet if you dare to look deeper into their narrative or to question anything they say.
Yeah.
So let's look deeper into the narrative in that case. In a recent podcast, Kim Belair explains that her company's mandate is to make every game political. There has to be diverse representation in all contexts, even in, say, World War I. Watch.
A lot of the time.
Oh, and by the way, I did not actually watch this entirety of this video. I think I watched a 5-minute clip from this originally. Yeah, so some of this is my first. It is my first viewing of this.
And that kind of sensitivity work results in, cuts of certain things or slight changes. But what I prefer to do, and I don't really call it sensitivity reading, but I think of it as just, bringing representation to something, is trying to build a narrative and a story.
Trying to build a narrative
that include moments and elements custom made to bring representation and joy to people.
To bring
because that's that's kind of where Sweet Baby lands on it. And I think it's the same way when we put diversity into the past. People go, oh no, but you're just putting diversity in. They don't even feel ready because they've been exposed to so much, whether it's whitewashed, whether it's just colonized media, that they go, oh, there can't possibly have been diversity back then, because my understanding of it was that this was a homogenous time. And so I think I look at it like that.
or they make excuses for it, like, yeah, well, sure, okay, maybe there were some women in World War I that were on the front lines, but it was only in these specific situations, so we shouldn't show it in the game.
Exactly.
Or maybe, just maybe, you should show it in those situations when the diversity was there, not add it to where it was not. How about that?
You have so much of that happening, and for me, there's so many leaps that we already take with history. There are so many things that we decide are true, and so many of the protagonists that we choose for our games are exceptional by their nature. So why not take that further?
So SBI wants to, quote, build a narrative and a story that includes moments and elements custom made to bring representation and joy to people. And she uses the example of World War I. Well, if you're familiar with the history at all, there were not a lot of women fighting on the front lines of World War I,
yeah,
but they shoehorned that into their game anyway, because at every possible opportunity, they need to minimize and demonize white men. White men cannot be the hero of anything, even historical events where they were the heroes, like World War I. And
you see here again, and he's speaking truth. This is actually accurate. So good job, Matilda. You're doing a good job right here.
Other historical events, by the way. White men have been the heroes of many historical events. But, that can't be allowed to happen in games because they have to attack white men whenever possible. We're seeing this at all levels in the gaming industry. Here, for example, is Danny Lalanders. She reportedly used to work at Sweet Baby Inc. just a year ago, and now she works for a studio at EA, one of the biggest game studios on the planet. And watch as she explains why she doesn't hire white people on her team, because apparently they commit all kinds of microaggressions. Watch.
Microaggressions.
I have a team of 21 right now for Validate. It's a pretty big team. It's a crazy big team for indie games. But who is your team? Validate has a team of mostly all people of color. Yeah.
All people of color. That actually isn't diverse. I'm just saying. We have no white people on our team.
I have no white people on our team.
That's not a diverse team.
I did that because I wanted to create a safe environment.
This is racist.
And I know the best way for an environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me. And I'm not saying that.
Just like me. Yeah, you are racist.
White people in the industry are creating unsafe environments. I'm not saying that. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that sometimes it is hard to work with white people because they think that something made okay, but it was really a microaggression. And no one wants to deal with that while they're trying to make a game that they love.
You know what? I imagine that she and the other people on her team probably do a whole bunch of quote unquote microaggressions against any white people that they come across.
Now, notice that she doesn't say what the microaggressions were that these terrible white people committed. We can imagine maybe those nasty white people said something nice about her hair. Maybe they asked where she was from.
Completely agree.
Maybe they said, hey, cut that line of dialogue about building the wall. It's a little too on the nose. Who knows? In any event, this is an employee of a major game studio, straight up admitting that she doesn't hire white people. And that's not just unethical, it's illegal. Okay, you're not allowed to do that. And it's the kind of thing that's usually left unsaid in major corporations, but it's standard practice in the games industry. Just come right out and announce it. Because this is what makes people of color safe, which, by the way, every time this comes up, that people of color, quote unquote, people of color are unsafe against white people when they're around white people. On top of everything else, it's just like factually, that's completely wrong. A black person statistically is much more likely to commit an act of violence against a white person than the other way. And that's just, there's no getting around it. It's just a fact.
Unfortunately, he is stating the statistics accurately to my understanding. The problem is that statistics only work in statistics. The real world is different, and what you see in front of you, depending on where you are, is not necessarily going to follow those statistics.
But to give another example, also in response to the SBI story, a senior editor at the gaming site Kotaku wrote, quote, "Hi, you can't be racist against white people. Thanks for tuning in."
Yes, you can.
Now, the people writing this garbage are true believers. They are the low IQ foot soldiers. But the reason they're so well funded is more interesting. As the former games executive Mark Kern explained this week, the cost of producing games is extremely high. It's higher than it's ever been, in fact. So game studios are looking to raise money in any way possible. And one way to get a lot of money is through ESG financing.
I wonder if you knew this before Mark Kern met.
It's not that gamers are, upset about, oh, hey, we have some diversity in the game. It's actually the way that they go about it, with pure tokenism, with phoning in weak characters instead of creating strong new characters. And more importantly, it's about a vindictiveness to destroy the past, to destroy the IP, to ignore the source material, and to tear apart these beloved characters in some sort of fitful rage that we don't understand and is very disingenuous. And I think that is the tremendous reaction to Suicide Squad. And this is going to have an immense...
Now, something that's funny here is that, and I'm going to show this, is Matt Walsh and his team at Daily Wire reached out to Mike Kern / Grums and completely shit the bed. I have those tweets pulled up and ready to show.
Financial impact. The way games are funded, you don't use your own money. Even EA, okay? Games are hugely expensive to make. They're upwards of $250, sometimes $600 million. It's for certain live games. It's incredibly how expensive they are. And to do that, your CFO is your best friend. You're counting on your CFO to get you tax breaks, to get you in, to put studios in regions which are.
In fact, I've discussed something similar to this with Hollywood, with Hollywood and the movies. When people do these calculations for seeing whether or not a movie made a profit or not, you have to take into account certain things like how much they had to do profit splitting with the theater, stuff like that, and then. And then people, even if you do those numbers, if people see that you made $10 million profit, yay! I question, okay, but how about if you took that money and you put it into a savings account or CD and got the interest on it? Would you have been better off not making the movie? And a lot of times the answer is you probably would have been better off just investing the money.
Financially favorable, and you will borrow cheap money.
What do you mean by what the bleep? I'm just giving you my opinion on all of Matt Walsh, good and bad.
We'll get his cheap money to do it. Even EA does this. I worked with EA. We were putting together a deal where they were taking bailout money from the banks in the last financial crisis that we had, and they were applying that cheap money towards games. Same thing with COVID money. They're applying that cheap money towards games.
Yeah.
And what has been the cheapest money while interest rates were still low, a couple of years ago? It was ESG financing.
Yes,
so they're going to take this money and they're going to put it into games.
So what ESG financing entails, Kern goes on to say, is that game studios have to agree to all kinds of conditions, including hiring companies like SBI to diversify their games.
Is that Oh, yes, that is Matilda Walsh. That most definitely is.
In other words, what's happening here is much bigger than SBI. It's about the companies that fund SBI. And that includes a fund called Baby Ghosts, which is also run by anti-white managers who are proud of their bigotry. It also includes the biggest institutional investors on the planet, like Vanguard and BlackRock, which own a substantial portion of gaming companies like Microsoft.
That's actually not bad. Microsoft. But yeah, he's not wrong on this. They also own parts of a lot of other companies too.
Microsoft. And these entities are creating the incentives. The only good news, as Kern points out later in that interview, is that ESG financing is drying up, in part because interest rates are changing and there's more exposure than ever to this propaganda, which makes it less effective. The U.S. government appears to be aware of that, and they view it as a potential problem. They want the propaganda to continue. And we know that because on its website, a nonprofit called Take This labels all criticism of SBI as harassment, and they're coordinating a response to it. What's Take This? Well, apparently, According to the website, they are a mental health nonprofit that's funded by the Department of Homeland Security. In other words,
yes,
your tax dollars.
This is something I find concerning. Government, stay out of it.
Dollars are paying for the defense of propagandists targeting children in the video game industry. For some reason.
Yeah, dude, you also, as I keep saying, you're focusing on the children. What about the children? You just hate video games, period, motherfucker.
And DHS is involved. And actually, it's worse than that. As The Intercept reported this month, quote, gaming companies are coordinating with the FBI and Department of Homeland Security to root out so-called domestic violent extremist content, according to a new government report. Noting that mechanisms have been established with social media companies to police extremism, the report recommends that the national security agencies establish new and similar processes with the vast gaming industry. So what this means is that the video game industry, without a lot of fanfare, has transformed into a tool of both propaganda and surveillance.
And you see, part of my problem with Matt Walsh here is that I have a hard time believing that if that propaganda that was being inserted was propaganda that he agreed with, I don't think he would have any problem with this whatsoever. That is a large part of my problem with Matilda here. He is very he's very politically motivated on this. He's not in this to help us. He really isn't.
It's an effective way to indoctrinate children precisely because it hasn't received much attention, and also because children spend, many of them, hundreds of hours a year, and that might be an undercount, a severe undercount, with this kind of content.
Oh no, oh no. Think of the children. Think of the children.
So it should get a lot of our attention. And now finally that attention is here. And it's yet another reason to keep these games as far away from your children as possible.
Which is what I've been saying. He just wants
if you do that,
kids to stop playing
games. Journalists, literally the lowest form of journalists on the planet, will accuse you of harassment. And that's exactly how you'll know that you're doing the right thing. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like.
Yep. As I said, and he has good points. He has bad points. But he is overall a snake in the grass or a scorpion. Now, I have two fables. One is an Indian fable called The Scorpion and the Tortoise. And I am going to read this because I think that it is very, very. I'm not completely sure what he thinks about books. I haven't done that much of a dive into it. I just know what he thinks about video games, and I've seen a little bit about what he says about Hollywood. So, The Scorpion and the Tortoise. Most people know the story about the scorpion and the frog, and I'm going to read that in a moment. But here's the scorpion and the tortoise. There's apparently this came from a Sanskrit text that was written around 200 BC in India. A scorpion and a tortoise became such fast friends that they took a vow that they would never separate. So when it happened that one of them was obliged to leave his native land, the other promised to go with him. They traveled only a short distance when they came to a wide river. The scorpion was now greatly troubled. Alas, he said, you, my friend, can easily swim, but how can a poor scorpion like me ever get across this stream? Never fear, replied the tortoise. Only place yourself squarely on my broad back, and I will carry you safely over. No sooner was the scorpion settled on the tortoise's broad back than the tortoise crawled into the water and began to swim. Halfway across, he was startled by a strange rapping on his back, which made him ask the scorpion what he was doing. Doing? Answered the scorpion. I am whetting my sting to see if it is possible to pierce your hard shell. Ungrateful friend, responded the tortoise. It is well that I have it in my power to both save myself and punish you as you deserve. And straightway he sank his back down below the surface and shook off the scorpion into the water. I like this one because in this version, the scorpion does not die. I mean, the scorpion dies, and the tortoise doesn't. Scorpion lies to the frog and stings him at the back, on his back. They both drown. Mm. Yes, that is the second story that I'm going to show. But I wanted to show the one where the scorpion dies by himself, not managing to kill the other. And now to share the other one. So for Scorpion and the Frog. The scorpion wants to cross the river but cannot swim, so it asks the frog to carry it across. The frog hesitates, afraid that the scorpion might sting it, but the scorpion promises not to, point out that it would drown it if it killed the frog in the middle of the river. The frog considers this argument sensible and agrees to transport the scorpion. Midway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog anyway, dooming them both. The dying frog asks the scorpion why it stung despite knowing the consequence, to which the scorpion replies, "I am sorry, but I couldn't resist the urge. It's my character." No, the tortoise survives. It went beneath the water and it shook the scorpion off, and then it kept going. Yeah, I know. My wife pointed it out to me too. I think that it might be a translation issue because I've also seen it titled "The Scorpion and the Turtle," with the turtle making more sense. I'm not going to argue with you on that because, yeah, tortoises can't swim, but apparently in that fable, that tortoise could swim because it got midway into the river. So, just by going by that, apparently we had a tortoise that could do something that most tortoises couldn't do. But replace the replace the animal with a turtle, and you get the same thing. So yeah, you are not wrong. However, yeah, scorpions can't talk either. Good point. So, to give a little idea of the character of Daily Wire and them, Grums posted some DMs that he had in a conversation with a writer for Daily Wire. His name is Greg Ree. As you can see, at Real Daily Wire. Hey, Matt. Hey, Matt covered Gamergate 2 and a clip of your recent interview on the show today. Elon just posted the monologue. Wanted you to know that we're very interested in the story. Please keep us in mind if you have anything to add or any other ideas. Thanks a lot for your work. Thanks also for your work on StarCraft. My lock sound on my Tesla is the siege tank sound, so it obviously struck a chord with me. And then Matt says, "Awesome, I may have some ideas." And then about 2 hours later, and this after Grums basically commented on Matt's monologue, saying that Matt should have more open mind. I didn't actually, I haven't actually hunted down that exact tweet, but after that, this Greg person says, "I see you want to wage a piss fight instead. So stupid." And then Grum says, "Matt said what he said about games. I'm asking him to be open-minded. Now you're swearing at me. You wrote a snide comment, really stupid comment too. You didn't ask him to be open-minded. What a joke." Okay, so now the next one. Sure, I did. Read my next tweet. it's not a secret that, and then it's not a secret that Matt doesn't like games. Yeah, he mentions that repeatedly in the monologue. Doesn't preclude him from talking about the issue. He suggested it did. This is obnoxious, counterproductive, and stupid. This is not convincing me that the Daily Wire is not being opportunistic when you so easily jump to insulting me. All right, buddy, you're the victim here. Right, take care. Yeah, this Greg person is a real nice guy. So now we have a public tweet by Gregory, and yes, I am saying it that way on purpose. The coverage of ESG and SBI's influence in the gaming to push DI is what's finally getting mainstream attention. And I don't see why it's controversial to say that games are incredibly popular with kids and propagandize them. Your comment is essentially a projection. You're accusing Matt of being puritanical. He is puritanical. While at the same time trashing anyone who doesn't recite the precise history of Gamergate that you feel is all important. One of the reasons mainstream publications don't bring more attention to this issue is how childish and frankly dumb a lot of gamers are on all sides. You are a good example of the problem. The person that he reached out to try to try to get help from, because he said that he was very insightful, basically. He is now calling him stupid. Real nice. Real nice. And now, the last tweet that I have ready. Posts like this kind of prove his point. This space is dominated by so many stupid people that they can't even comprehend the content of a 20-second clip. Yeah, that's also part of why I decided to do this. Because as I decided to give the full context of the entire 20-minute video. So, yeah, there's that. So, hopefully that gives an idea about why I find in good old Matilda to be a snake in the grass. I have also and I have also in the past read through his article live on stream verbatim, in which he basically talks about gaming rotting people's brains and making people more violent, citing studies that don't even agree with him at times. And this man is supposed to be someone we take as an ally? No. No, no, no. Like I said earlier in this stream, he is not our ally. I do not believe in the phrase "the enemy of my enemy is my friend." No, the accurate way to put it is the enemy of my enemy is my enemy's enemy. Nothing more, nothing less. And that is what Matt is. Is Matilda is our enemy's enemy, and that is all. He is a scorpion. He is a Trojan horse, as Yivo has put it, for bringing in a bad actor who just simply wants games to go away. This is not someone I would want to have on my side. Just because somebody is saying the right thing right now, that doesn't mean that they should be your ally. And anyone who thinks otherwise is not thinking beyond the length of their nose. You'd rather have CinemaGate? Okay. So, yeah, that's largely what I have to say about this matter. Good old Matilda can fuck all the way off. The motherfucker has no trust for me and will never get trust from me. So, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you to both of you for coming and listening to me rant. And I think that I had some interesting commentary before either of you actually got here. So if you want to rewind and see some of that, you'd be welcome to. So have a good day. I'll probably be playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in a little bit. Bye.